take whatever these guys are saying.
Yeah, and I think one person that does play a ton of Hearthstone and actually finds himself sat at an incredibly similar record to Race is Zalae. He's one of the biggest streamers that the Americas region has right now.
Woo!
He plays a ton of Hearthstone on stream. What I will say is he's generally not jamming Priest Mirrors or Quest Shaman or Quest Druid on his stream. So I'm curious, and I intend to ask him this question if he does win, like how much time he also spends practicing his GM lineups and the GM matchups outside of the time he streams. Because with the amount of streaming hours he puts in, like there's only so many hours in the day when you have to factor in just basic human things like eating and hanging out with your cat and going to the gym so you can get super swole like Zalae, that you can spend, putting in time practicing actual GM matchups.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've ever tried it. I have on occasion, but eating an entire block of cheese is very time-consuming. It can take a while, depending on the type. A nice sharp cheddar is quite difficult because it's very rich.
Please don't, as an American, talk to me about cheddar, because I will get offended. American cheddar is awful. It's an actual dumpster fire of a cheese. Like, do not talk to me.
I have no horse in this race.
No one is on the other side of this argument.
I think that cheese is good, and the better the cheese, the better for me. So if you, who seem to be an expert of cheddar cheese, say that there are other better cheddar cheeses out there, I would like to try them.
Excellent. I'm glad we reached a resolution on this topic.
Yes. But for Zalae, I don't think it's about the quality. I think it's about the quantity.
It is, yeah.
But that's a topic for another day. Let's get in this Priest Mirror. Northshire Cleric on turn 1 for Saiyan. And Light Warden on turn 1 for Zalae. So pretty average start for a Priest Mirror.
In the light's name.
That power shield is actually incredibly important because of the card Topsy-Turvy in justsaiyan's hand right now. Without that power word shield, this Topsy-Turvy would have probably ended the game on turn 2. 1-3 into 2-1, and then heal, potentially even with the Nefset Ritualist for maximum tempo. Game over.
Yeah. And, a lot of times that the Priest Mirror comes down to those micro decisions. We've harped on it so much because this matchup happens so much. But oftentimes making the most amount of stats on board every turn is good. There's some obviously some cases where things can change. We saw Bloodyface obviously hold onto a coin in his match earlier on against Amnesiac, and it paid off in spades because he had to coin out an extra arms. But that doesn't always happen. And you can see now, instead of just the game being blown wide open, he is essentially 2 for 2s in card count, and you can even consider his a victory because of the fact that he got to draw a card from Power Word Shield.
No 2-3 from justsaiyan. I obviously see the clear thing, which is he has an injured Blade Master in his hand. That Nefset Ritualist is very powerful with that in hand, but TJ was kind of just giving this little speech about maximum stats into play on most turns ends up being correct.
He also has Psycho Pump, though.
Yep.
So he has kind of, 2 upsides.
Yes. So he is going to skip the Ritualist entirely and just play the Blade Master into Psycho Pump curve, which does make a ton of sense. That means his Psycho Pump has just a Cleric and a Blade Master in it. He does give himself some interesting outs off the top, like extra arms, for example, if he was to play the Nefset Ritualist on 2. But I think all things considered, he made the right decision.
This is interesting turn. So they could go Topsy. Oh, no, he couldn't do that. I was thinking like Topsy Power Word Shield, but then it would die to the injured Blade Master because when you Topsy, its max health gets reduced. Or not reduced, well, reduced, but the max health becomes what the attack was.
Yes.
It's no longer damaged.
Right.
So it would be a 3-2 without the ability to be healed, so he couldn't Power Word Shield heal it. Extra arms just much cleaner. Maybe slightly vulnerable to a Wild Pyromancer, but this does give Saiyan the Psycho Pump. Nefset Ritualist hold pays off.
Ooh. That Blade Master is actually a big deal. It's rare that you don't necessarily want to have a Northshire Cleric outcome, but the fact that Zalae just has the Armet in hand, and that Saiyan just rolled a 7 health minion with an Inner Fire in his hand, That could be a huge 50-50 for Saiyan this game.
Yep. Both players opted to go for double silence in their lists. Double silence, single topsy-turvy. And Zalae has cut a wild pyromancer.
I must consider.
Now,
While Saiyan cut the Acolyte of Pain.
this play would get blown out by Saiyan's hand because he has the Nephicet Ritualist as well as the Inner Fire. But you could topsy the opposing Blade Master, trade into it, and then play your Armet. You are conceding your Armet on board that way to 7 power, but it is more competitive on board that way. No, I hate that. I've talked myself out of it. Forget I said anything.
Okay.
I think Zalae's smart to divert away. I talked in one of the previous series. Hard to know which one because they do all blend together in terms of the Priest Mirrors. That if you can find a turn where you can cast Circle of Healing when it has no upside whatsoever for your opponent, it's usually smart to do so. It's a very, very hard card to use in the mirror match.
Yeah, as soon as a Light Warden or Northshire Cleric or even just injured minions on your opponent's side of the board gets a little tricky. Saiyan draws a silence off the top. 2 of them in the deck. Not really any great targets. The Intra-Tolvir, sure, but he would be just trading over it anyway. He could silence it in Divine Spirit Inner Fire. That makes sense.
14 you. 14 your Blade Master?
I don't think he.
Your Blade Master.
I don't think he wants to die. Also, silence would silence plus
Silence
Inner
would
Fire.
really get you, yeah.
And with 2 in Zalae's deck, I think you just want to kind of use this 14-14 to fight for the board.
It's very fair.
I must consider.
Zalae knows whatever he plays, it's going to die. That is the look of a man who's staring at a 14-12 and no way to kill it.
Very awkward turn. Do you give up your Armet just to have a Beaming Sidekick in play, like a 1/7 Beaming Sidekick? Does that actually get you anywhere on the following turn?
Do you topsy Ahmet preemptively after the Beaming Sidekick?
Hey, I got you, friend.
Ah, okay. I like this better. Make a thing that's attacking for a good amount.
Yeah, this does a lot, right? It puts on pressure. It also means that Zalae is representing being able to trade with the Blade Master if he needs to on the next turn, just by having the Inner Fire on the 7 health sidekick.
Also gives him an out for lethal, I believe. If he drew Divine Spirit off the top, he could more arms, Divine Spirit Inner Fire. That's exactly 24.
Is enough.
Is it? Is it 22?
The more arms makes it go up to 9. Divine Spirit 18.
24, yeah. Okay.
Inner Fire. So Divine Spirit would be lethal for Zalae. Exact mana usage as well. So if you think about that, that turn becomes even smarter.
Hey, I got you, friend.
Though if he doesn't draw Divine Spirit, he's dead. I saw an orange card. Oh. A good setup from Zalae, though. That was
pretty
looking
clean.
pretty poor.
Yeah.
And that's the face of a man who set up for lethal and didn't get the reward. The many expressions of Zalae.
So now Pyro, Inner Fire, and More Arms does fully clear the Reborn Blademaster, right? 13 damage from the 6 and the 1/7 go in. The 1 Pyro proc pops it open, and then you put More Arms on your Pyro. You leave an injured cleric on the board for your sins. Ah, delightful.
Quickly.
Well, this sucks. I don't like any of this at all.
No. Oh. Well, he's got to start doing something.
You'll leave the 14/14. This seems more responsible, to be perfectly honest, yeah. Makes sense to me.
Got 15 power showing on board. Good thing he did. Though this Circle of Healing will bring this injured Blademaster out of range of just the 2 minions trading in.
Yeah, but it also looks like it isn't going face again, which means Zalae is not really being threatened with lethal on the following turn.
He's got a chance for Bonsomdi.
Yep.
These are the priest versus priest situations, which get even more fun, where both players have 0 cards in hand. And massive minions on the board. Yeah, Circle of Healing brings us out of range of just dying, period. But it also heals up the injured Tolvir up to 7. But the Light Warden will be 7
goes
attack.
to 7 as well, yeah. One
card off.
That is the scratch of a man who was 1 card off. Yep, pretty sure you can all lip read.
It was basically Bonsomdi or like a string of Wild Pyromancer draws.
Yeah, Zalae hasn't seen a cleric yet, right? So he could have just drawn cleric, healed, drawn Circle of Healing, like.
Yeah.
Quickly.
Like if he had drawn Power Word Shield, he trades the Injured Tolvir, Power Word Shields, then Divine Spirits, and the board is clear. Well, assuming Divine Spirit was the exact next card.
Yeah, so you can still do most of that. You Divine Spirit, Pyro, trade through, heal up, and whoa, really? What? What? Zalae? Sir? Okay, no, this is fine. Yeah, no, this is very reasonable. Skips the heal on purpose. The Bonsomdi draw is gonna get Zalae nice and interested in getting out of that game as quick as possible. I was thinking just for a split second there that he could have found a value trade over the Light Warden, but there's no way you can do that in the situation, so skipping the heal is perfectly reasonable in that spot.
Yep.
Zalae engineered his way through that pretty nicely, I think, considering he was 0 clerics to 2 in that spot. Even then, the 4/7 Blademaster that came back off the Psychopomp, which to Saiyan's credit, he engineered that situation very deliberately himself by not playing the Nefeset Ritualist. But Zalae, even having 1 card draw for lethal in that position, like if you can put yourself in that spot in a Priest Mirror, we talk about how Priest Mirrors just get blown out on like turn 3 or turn 4. If you can be on the receiving end of that blowout and find yourself a 1-outer for lethal 3 or 4 turns down the line, you've probably played that pretty well.
Yeah, it's a 2 out of 19. I mean, that's not like the worst odds in the world. But at the end of the day, Saiyan takes the Priest Mirror, goes up 1-0 in the series. Before we jump into game 2, we're going to have to go to a quick break, but don't go anywhere. More America's Grandmasters. Right after.
Hello and welcome to Around the Fern. I'm Nathan Zamora. That's Admirable, you can call me, and I'm joined today by a very special player. Please state your name.
Christos Tsakopoulos.
I thought it was Fino. Like I've always called you Fino at tournament.
Well, yeah, people call me Fino, Feno, Fenomeno, whatever you want to
Okay,
go with.
well, you got to. I think you need to pick one of them though. It's not just Fenomeno or
Let's
Fino.
go with Feno. Let's go with Feno.
Feno.
Yeah, happy.
Okay. You're happy with that?
I think it will be easier for you.
So where are you living right now, and what's that like? What's that like for you in Hearthstone?
Yeah, now I'm just living in Greece with my parents. We have a really big apartment, and on the first floor, there's like a movie theater that my dad
Like a
operates.
movie? Like you guys make movies there?
No, there's no movie making in the movie theaters. You just show the movie.
So like you just show them other
yes,
people?
people come and they can watch the movie in the movie theater.
But you don't make them.
No, we don't make them. We get the movie and we show the movie in the
I
theater.
thought the whole point of the movie.
Just sell tickets, we don't make movies, and people come and watch the movie.
Okay. Well, I get. Let's just agree to disagree on that. Fenomeno, Fino, Feno, whatever you want to call it.
I'm done.
But we're in an interview.
My name is David Chan. In the game, I go by justsaiyan. My username is just kind of a pun, right? But over the years, I think it's grown to mean a lot more to me. Playing Hearthstone for 4 to 5 years, I've probably won like 35,000 games, which means I've lost like 30,000 games. So definitely going back and forth and picking up after every loss. And that's kind of what the anime embodies, right? Is like you lose a fight, you almost die, and then you come back stronger. So being in Grandmasters, especially coming to the summit and everything, it feels like you have just a wide, diverse range of amazing players. And now it's, at least at the start here, it feels like we have a new responsibility to represent Hearthstone, to represent, how fun and competitive that this game can be to the best that we can. So for me, the X factor has to be, I think, just I'm good at finding an edge where other players aren't exactly looking, and then trying to drive as much as I can into that so that I have an even bigger edge at the end of the day. Personal goals for the year: get into the 2 spots from North America to make it to the grand finals this year. I mean, I'm saying this like right after Worlds, but I'm just dying to get back in there,
Just saying, currently leads Zalae 1-0 in our 4th match of the day here. Day 1, week 6 of America's Grandmasters. Since we haven't done intros in a while, I'm TJ, joined by Zalae. Rare occurrence here at the apex of competitive Hearthstone.
You get the apex of Hearthstone casters.
That's right.
Yes.
Next matchup looks like it's going to be Zalae on his Druid versus justsaiyan on the Holy Wrath Paladin, a matchup that we've seen quite a bit outside of Game 1s for the past couple weeks. A matchup that I do enjoy because it does offer some tricky spots later on in the game, especially with the Druid's ability to out-heal / armor the double Holy Wrath combination. But I cannot stress the importance of this win for Zalae after Race took a win earlier on, because if he were to lose this match to justsaiyan, he'd fall to 3-8, which would mean he'd be in a 3-way tie. Or sorry, no, PNC also won. He'd be in a 2-way tie for last place in the division with only 3 matches remaining. Not where you want to be.
But I think Race himself really contextualized it really well, like doing our jobs for us. Like they all play each other in that final week as well, which is going to make even more impactful. Like Zalae would ideally like to have some kind of buffer, or Race would like to have some kind of buffer so that, you know, that last game was potentially a free roll for them, but that's not going to be the case here. Worth noting as well, this particular matchup, we are seeing the Malagos Druid come out from Zalae, which is slightly different dynamic in what you see with just regular Quest Druid going up against Holy Wrath Paladin, because you have to play a delightful game as the Holy Wrath Paladin, which you quite often play against Priest, which is just, am I dead this turn? And that is a very scary game
I love that
to
game.
be playing. You do, crucially, against Druid, you actually have signifiers, you have tells, like trigger points from your opponent, right? That can actually tell you whether you're dead or not, because if they haven't played an Elise or a Dream Petal Florist or anything like that, like they're just going to Mali double Moonfire you from hand. Like that's the best they can do. So 12 is the spot that you need to play around. Once a Dream Petal Florist comes down, once a Malagos has been played and might be flooped in hand, like all hell breaks loose at that point. Like your guess is as good as mine, because the different damage breakpoints that Malagos Druid is capable of are near endless, and you do need a lot of experience with the deck to really master that kind of stuff. And it's a question mark that I have over Zalae, because I've seen him play a little bit of this deck on stream. I watched Zalae stream a ton, and he did at points seem unfamiliar with some of the different late game combos and things that you can put together, and was having to like manually count a lot of damage points that a more experienced player would just know that that's how much damage that you do. So interested to see whether Zalae can pilot this one properly.
There's also the added X factor of the thing we talked about earlier, the double Ferocious Howl,
Yes.
copy additional armor, and Hidden Oasis outside of the double Holy Wrath range. So there's kind of multiple paths to victory at the late stages of the game, but obviously the primary one is just killing them.
Yes.
Which you'll have to do anyway, but it's easier when they're out of things. But do not underestimate, again, the ability for Paladin to deal damage once their full combo is gone with the likes of Zephyrus, True Silver Champion, Hammer of Wrath.
The light bends to
Sans list, just the 1 True Silver, 2 Consecrations, Acolyte of Pain, no Soup Vendor, copy of Subdue. Pretty standard stuff.
Yep. And Zalae's Malagos Druid standard as well, as far as we've come to know.
Yes, the first week it appeared, people were playing Zephyrus, at least in EU. I think, actually, in that case, in a rare reversal of fortunes, Americas was a little bit ahead of the curve, and there was already a player or two playing Geppetto instead of Zephyrus in that first week.
And
EU
then
quickly followed suit.
The second week, players are starting to put Feywurst in their Malagos Druid list.
Yeah, I don't know about that one, Chief.
Yeah. In a deck where you're incentivized to hold on to all of your cheap spells for a very long time.
Yes.
A card that does not do well when you have a lot of cheap spells in hand. Seems counterintuitive, but I believe we don't see any of that this week.
Yeah, for a while, one of the highest win rate versions of Malagos Druid on like the stat aggregator sites had a Cenarius in there, which is kind of the similar position. It's a very, very weird scenario, especially like not only is this like weird anti-synergy with Feroz and cheap spells, like it's also a card if it's on the left-hand side of your hand, can just be hard to cast, so therefore like a lot of Malagos Druid is getting cards out of your hand so you can get the right Elise duplicates, so you can get Dream Petal Florist to hit the right minion. Like
that's why Geppetto makes so much sense.
Yes, exactly.
What? You think you can take me?
Time for Saiyan to start climbing.
Job's done.
Early Theckle does introduce some protection.
Theckle.
Oh, I do usually say Theckle. I don't know why Theckle came out that time. I might just run with it now. It amused you. It made you happy, and that is my #1 goal in life, TJ. So we're going to stick with it. High Priest Theckle.
All right. Theckle on the board. Theckling it up. heavy hand.
It is, yep. You can kind of see the usefulness of an Ubisoft Defender, though, and why it is very foreign to me that you would play one in your deck, as we saw from Race. I should have asked him about that, I forgot. I believe Swid's actually played 0 of them 1 week, although potentially just admitted that it was a mistake. He just submitted the wrong deck at that point.
Yeah.
But
I think that's a poor choice of cards.
It's just one of those situations where you're like, I'm playing 2 Worthy Expeditions and 2 Ferocious Howls. Like, I'm a genius! How have I fit all of these cards in my deck?
Happens to the best of us. The scenarios that was picked up from the Worthy Expedition. Dump that on the board from some pressure, and you can see kind of the head shake from Sand.
Yep.
Not something that was expected.
Pretty good here.
Yeah. But I'm sure he's glad that he equality and consecration that last board. Otherwise, he would take a beating. Now, not a fantastic way to get through this. Wild Pyromancer, Consecration, Elven Archer.
I wonder.
Hammer of Wrath and True Silver Champion. Both of those plays leave the Cenarius alive. Cheval's in hand, so you can't rip Holy Rat to the face to try and go for the 1 and 11 to win.
Let me
Unfortunately.
I like that you're thinking, though. Always a good point. Can I just win the game this turn?
Yeah. I like the Holy Wrath for holding on for damage, because a lot of times you do need that extra damage.
Yeah.
If both plays are going to clear off the same amount of power from the board, you might as well go for the one that allows you to have the most efficient damage done to the face.
Second Nourish. Zalae only 3 cards behind anyway on this card draw against the deck whose sole purpose is just to draw their entire deck.
He's got to find a way to get cards out of his hand, though.
He does. And that's Geppetto obscured on the far left, which is kind of a bummer right now because he's drawn all of the minions that you'd love to hit with Geppetto already.
The benefit of that is that you can afford to overdraw one.
That's true.
A Nubasat Defender. Surger. And Crystal Merchant, right?
Sounds right.
Only 3 left. Only 3 minions left.
Oh, the Floop?
Ah, Floop. Ah, that would be a bummer.
Yep.
Sometimes not necessary, though.
No, I think a lot of people just kind of view that as part of the combo when they look at the deck list, but when you get more experience, like, to me, almost every matchup, you can afford to just, like, Oasis Surge a Floop in the mid-game for board control.
He's trying purposefully attacking with Lodi before the swipe to make sure that the Lodi is unstealth so it has taunt.
I like it. It's also just pushing damage.
Well, I would have pushed the same amount, but that was a deliberate block for has to be exactly True Silver Champion.
Let me think.
The aggression is going to force this timeout. That timeout draw did activate Zephyrus as well, I believe. Don't think it was active before this turn.
Yeah. So that minor play saving Zalae some life here. And honestly, dealing some weird amount of damage to Sand because otherwise he would have been able to attack face and netted, or attacked one of these minions and netted 2 health from the True Silver Champion.
Yep.
Ah,
I wonder.
cool.
Seems good. I think I want to see Zalae heal this turn. I don't know how he feels his position in the game is right now, but I think he should feel like he is winning. And
I mean, if a Holy Wrath Paladin ever has 5 cards left in their hand,
Yes.
and you're not dying the next turn.
correct. Well, that's the key part of why I want to see him heal this turn, right? Because if you feel like you're winning against Holy Wrath Paladin, take away their 1 in 10, 1 in 9, 1 in 8, whatever win condition is at that point. Because at some point, if you are winning, they are going to panic and go for it because it's the correct thing for them to do. Lovely. Ooh, Zalae all in on pressure now. I like it. Second Ferocious Hell bites the dust, means that that is not getting duplicated by Elise anymore. Zalae not interested in a heal plan. He is looking to kill his opponent.
Yep. And this will force out the Zephyrus, which is some amount of damage that Zalae doesn't have to worry about later on.
Correct.
But he's used both of his Ferocious Howls, which means that Saiyan has a chance to chip away this armor before that crucial point of the game happens where he absolutely needs to Holy Wrath over 2 turns to get through all the life.
There's the 12 in hand for Zalae. Zalae's Elise is currently still not active. 9 cards remaining.
Looking for Starfall, I believe.
What to do?
That's it. Just a Starfall.
Okay.
Only has 1 Hidden Oasis in the deck, so.
8 cards remaining, or sorry, 8 cards in hand, 9 cards remaining, so he can start this turn with Nourish if you would like to.
Or Geppetto.
Sure.
He drew the Oasis Surger, so it's Floop and Crystal Merchant that are and then a Numisat Defender that are left in the deck.
So he goes down to 7 up to 9. That makes sense.
There's Floop. And Crystal Merchant.
Behold, jewels of the sun.
And you see, I was just about to point it out, but Floop's cost will reset as soon as you play a minion, so you can't gimmick any like Malagos 1 mana Floop combination. That just doesn't work.
Oh no.
It's just
The
what
deck
this,
that has 1,000,000 damage can't get any more damage.
it's just what this deck needed, TJ. Just another weird combo. As we learned in the previous series, always important to pay attention to what minion your Floop is.
Yes. All right, so Elise should be active now.
Let me think.
And this is a desperation play.
Stash that away.
Zalae clenches. Okay, I saw
that laugh was either
Yeah, yeah,
25 or 1.
Yeah.
There's no middle ground.
I saw Saiyan laughing. I was like, okay, we're at one end of the spectrum right now. He either absolutely nutted that or absolutely low-rolled it.
And now with Hidden Oasis and a Holy Wrath gone, Zalae is at a near 100% win rate.
And I get that term from Saiyan as well, because I talked about the exciting game of do I die this turn that you have to play as the Paladin here. Saiyan doesn't know that Zalae's hand was already Dream Petal, Malagos, Elise before that Geppetto got played. He just knows a Geppetto got played, which means there could be a 1-mana Malagos in hand, there could be a Floop to go alongside that, and he could have very much just been dead that turn. Elise is active. You can just about see her peeking out on the left-hand side there with the yellow border. Which means it is cards out of hand time. South Defender is about the best draw for getting cards out of your hand.
Yep.
Start pull this away, play your things.
Need a hand, Explorer?
Really? Three Moonfires.
So it's 18 from hand.
8, 9, so he's...
Oh! He's at 25.
He sure is.
He's at 25, Sottle.
And at 25, he shall remain, at least for this turn. Zalae needs a Hidden Oasis to have 100% security here.
with the pounce, he can draw it guaranteed, right?
Can he?
Oh, no, not if it's the bottom card.
Yeah, I mean, the Crystal Merchant will draw it, but it'll be too late.
Yeah.
No, he can do it, right? Just wrath his own minion?
He wouldn't have mana at that point, because he'd have to nourish.
Right.
Nourish would give him 6 mana. He can go for it. Right now he has 10 cards in hand, so actually he would have to dump a Moonfire in order to make that happen. But to be honest, with Zephyr's gone, I think I'm okay just spending a Moonfire here.
Just out heal him, potentially, yeah.
To try and have a guaranteed...
Yeah.
Like, next turn, if Saiyan doesn't draw Shivala,
right,
it's a 50-50.
Yep. Right now, Zalae has 75% to pretty much just end the game in his favor.
Yeah, unless Hidden Oasis is the bottom card.
I'm almost out of cards.
Oh, he still has Swipe remaining as well. There it is. All right, that should just about lock it up. Saiyan would have to stick Shivalas at that point, which isn't going to happen.
Should Saiyan have gone for it the previous turn?
Maybe, yeah.
That's a 1 in 5.
Maybe. I'm never, like, super hard on that decision because I think it's one of the hardest. Like, it's an easy decision to focus on because we as casters can parrot the soundbite, right? Like, he had a 1 in 5. We know that. We can say it. It sounds smart.
I mean, he could say it too.
Right, exactly. But it's... That situation is, like, also true in a bunch of other weird spots and other weird matchups, right? It's just not so obviously calculable where you can say, oh, I have a 1 in 5 to win the game if I take this risk right now. It is obviously calculable? Is that what that nod is about? So I get it. Like, there was one in Europe on the previous week where I think potentially Psycho should have taken a 1 in 6 as it was at that time. I'm not entirely sure. But even then, when I interviewed Fino about it in that game, I think it was, and asked him about it, he said that would seem like a weird thing to do. But I even think on reflection, it ends up being the right play as well. Like, it's so weird, right? Like, in that spot, the Hidden Oasis has to be last card, so that's 75% that...
or Nourish also. Like, he doesn't know that he could cycle through his
sure,
hand,
right? Right. So, like, one of those cards has to be buried for him to find his way out of it. But by him passing a turn, on average, his odds improve because on average, he doesn't draw the Shivala the next turn. But that's just weird, wacky, like, mathematical tricks that you're playing with yourself.
Yeah, but then if by not Holy Wrathing innately that turn, you only have 1 minion left in your deck, and he played Prismatic Lens, so he gave up the opportunity to... it's just a lot of weird things that make my brain hurt. So we'll talk about the next game once we know the matchup.
Fair enough.
But it's tied up now. And Priest is still in the lineup for one of these players. Spoiler alert, it's Zalae.
And I hear that Zalae has had a tumultuous relationship. That's not the right word. Tumultuous? Yes, there we go.
Tumultuous.
Yeah. He has had a complete lack of tumult with his Nausea clerics generally. There's the pretty famous screenshot at this point of just him freaking out at the double Nausea Cleric draw from Monsanto, I believe it was. But if he ever needs a Nausea Cleric, it's not now, TJ, because he does not even want to see any of this Priest nonsense. He's going Quest Shaman.
Yeah, and out of any of the decks that I would trust Zalae on, more than most people, it would be the Quest Shaman. And if there was any matchup that I would trust Zalae on, with Quest Shaman, it would be Warrior.
So, hang on, first things first. Did this make sense? Saiyan could have played Druid or Warrior?
Paladin or Warrior.
Paladin or Warrior, right.
Yes.
So Priest has a slight favorable against Paladin and a 50-50 to slight unfavorable against Warrior. Whereas Shaman has an enormous unfavorable or a big unfavorable against Paladin.
But a big favorable.
But a big favorable against Warrior.
And if you're from Saiyan's perspective, you want to Q Warrior because it's the same situation, right? Where he has a pretty extreme unfavorable, at least from my perspective with Priest.
Yes.
So I think it makes sense. And maybe he has a lot of confidence in his Shaman matchup. He does have Dr. Boom in his opening hand, so having a safe Dr. Boom turn is important because you need the value. You will get outvalued, you'll spend all of your removal, and they'll still have an annoying board full of 1/1s and 2/2s at some point in the game.
Right.
And for Shaman, because they just have so many resources with all of their lackey generators, all of their card draw, barista, and shutterwalk, it's almost impossible to run them out of resources. And even after that, it's like they have so much burst damage. I remember at the beginning of Grandmasters, before this matchup was super flushed out, like everybody kind of just assumed that Warrior was favored because of the way the decks worked. A deck that makes a bunch of small tokens, a deck that doesn't pressure you fast and that allows the Warrior to get to the late game, you'd assume that that would just be Warrior favored.
Right.
But then as we saw the matchup in practice, it's just the Shaman just kept doing these small annoying things that you have to remove or you'll take chip damage and die to the burn.
Yep.
That eventually you run out of removal, run out of health, or both simultaneously.
And even if the Warrior is playing Archivist Elysiana, which Saiyans is, Shaman can still weirdly fatigue you, where like they play Shudderwalk and get their full hand of resources when you have 4 to 5 cards left in your deck as the Warrior, and then that one hand allows them to make a board big enough that you can't play Elysiana for the rest of the game, and they just keep doing that. So you eventually just end up dying to fatigue anyway because you can't find the turn to play your Elysiana. Juicy looking weaponized Wasp for Zalae.
I would agree.
I think he wants to start doubling up on just about every other battle cry in his hand, that former champ and that evil cable rat. So using this as proc 6 out of 6 makes sense to me. I am a big advocate of the burn plan in this matchup when you are on coin, primarily just because it's more fun to just load up a Shudderwalk with 1,000,000 damage and then coin Shudderwalk and kill them. I don't think it's the most consistent way to play the matchup when you're going first, though. I do think just, you know, grinding out, getting max value, landing big baristas, all that kind of stuff, using your bog sloshers on value generators instead of damage sources does end up being more consistent. It's far less cool, though, than your Shudderwalk just doing like 40 damage.
That's impossible. Unless you have a lackey on board when you play Shudderwalk.
Yeah. I mean, Hero Power Coin Shudderwalk deals a lot of damage if you've been bog sloshing all your life drinkers the entire game.
So even if you bog slosh all of your life drinkers.
Yes.
So you have 6
Yes.
life drinkers?
Yes. That's 18 damage.
That's 18
twice.
damage.
It's
That's
36.
twice 36, and you have to do.
You just have to have a Kobold Lackey hit face a couple of times, and that's 40. It's definitely not impossible.
It's very unlikely.
It is very unlikely, yes. But it is fun.
What
All right.
to do?
I see you.
I mean, I'm sat right here. Zalae playing a copy of Siamat in his deck. A lot of people brought that in this week. Not something I've personally experimented with too much myself.
You get all 4 options.
Uh-huh.
Divine Shield, Taunt, Rush, and Wind Fury.
Excellent. Small victories in the matchup. Zalae caused a Dynomatic to be played where it wasn't a full clear. You consider that a win as the Shaman player?
Mm-hmm. So 2 routes here for Zalae. He could Hero Power Ethereal Lackey Weaponized Wasp, or he could Hero Power Former Champ Mutate. I don't think Siamat, because you can do more powerful things. Mm-hmm. And you could do more powerful things with Siamat later on. Former Champ is easier because you don't have to decide what spells you want.
You have to decide what minion you want from the Mutate, though. That's important.
And then wish for it.
Yes, correct. Wish for the perfect evolve.
There is little time.
Zetimo's only spells, right?
Yep.
Float like a butterfly. Sting like a bee. Sting like a bee.
No mutate.
No mutate at all. I don't know about how I feel about this one, TJ.
I mean, Mutate does have more potential.
Does it?
Going from a 1-1 to a 6-drop as opposed to going from a 2-1 to an 8-drop.
Sure. I can actually answer that question for you. Plus 3.2 plus 5 on the Giggle. Plus 3.6 plus 4.1 on the champ. Yeah, it's slightly bigger on the Giggle.
Yeah.
Winds of the south. Come
And 8-drops also have higher upside on effects.
Yes, massively so. 8 drops, there's like 20% for a taunt. You have the 2 charge minions, which is like 6% out of the pool. Like, yeah, you spike a lot on 8 drops.
Octasari.
Yeah. Oh, Zalae's been playing a bunch of Octasari decks on stream, I can tell you that much. He's got it in Hunter, he's got it in Paladin. The only thing that draws 8 cards in this series, though, is Noshing Cleric.
Can hold me.
Ooh. This is looking pretty lackluster for Saiyan. Hoping for a Dr. Boom turn here, which I imagine Zalae will try to make a big board into.
So I think we
Shudderwalk?
Save that Spell Ward Jeweler until we activate our opponent's Mortal Strikes. That seems important.
So Shudderwalk here has Evil Cable Rat, Sludge Slurper, Kobold Lackey, Titanic Lackey, Novice Engineer, Sandstorm Elemental, former champion. I'm Shudderwalking.
1 Novice Engineer, which is a very nice number of Novice Engineers.
Yep.
You actually don't want to be drawing too many a lot of the time.
Yep. And we had this discussion a lot last week about the usage of Shudderwalk in the Warrior matchup specifically. About how if you can deny a Dr. Boom turn, it's incredibly important. And you don't need a juiced up Shudderwalk in this matchup. You just need a pretty mediocre Shudderwalk, and then that allows you to have the resources to buy time until Barista.
Yep.
And it's perfect timing here.
Oh, that Wind Fury. Excellent choice, Shudderwalk. You chose very well. I would have liked to have seen a Divine Shield instead of that taunt, but you nailed the Wind Fury.
Nice. And it looks like Saiyan's gonna die.
It kind of does.
What now?
If this Tomb Warden comes down, it is getting plowed through by that hand. Weaponized Wasp in hand, Rush Lackey in hand. Brawl down to kill 1 minion. To kill 1 minion that drew Zalae like 7 cards, made a 5/5 on board, and it ate a Brawl after all of that as well. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
All right, don't look at the Plague of Murlocs.
I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it.
Just pretend it's not there.
I'm using it this turn.
What?
Yeah. Play a bunch of 1/1s.
Power.
Oh, ugh.
But I don't want my 5/5 to be a Murloc. I don't want my opponent to have 2 Wardens.
Bigger than a 5/5.
Oh, you're just the kind of guy that rolls the perfect synergy off all their Murlocs.
A lot of them are good.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Scargills and War Leaders all across the board.
Sure.
There is little time.
All right, there's a good chance Plague of Murlocs is no longer happening this turn.
Yeah.
I don't think it ever was. I think you use that to fight Ziliax or Tomb Warden in the matchup. Like, that's generally where it comes down.
Zalae, though, making sure he kind of maximizes his odds here of winning the game. He's got such a huge lead. Trying to make himself not vulnerable to Warpath with the Ancestral Spirit. Ooh, Harrison Jones. And Zalae attacked with the Weapons Project.
Did
he?
He did, yep.
Okay, so trying to think, well, how do I lose? Maybe he Harrisons, and if he draws another card, then
I'm so glad.
I'm done so.
I mean, also, maybe I'm just pushing lethal now with this Weaponized Wasp in my hand, 7/5 on board. Like, that 2 damage was just pretty juicy.
Yep. So 9 damage on board, Weaponized Wasp. That's another 6, 15.
There's the dead draw.
Jeez, finally. Just kidding. Just saying.
Just saying. Just saying.
Well, he does have to be smart with his resources here because a lot of this stuff in his hand is not super valuable. If he starts to try and go in a little bit too early, there's a chance he could be punished for it if Just Saiyans removal lines up perfectly. But, I mean, he's still got such high-value cards left in his deck. He's got Cable Rat, Sludge Slurper. He's still got the Barista tucked in there somewhere. Novice Engineer. I mean, so many draws. Box Slosher. So many draws off the top of his deck just have a high impact.
On the other side of that, he could just go all in on damage and then say, hey, you know what else I've got in my deck? 2 Life Drinkers at this point.
That's true.
Opponent's getting real low.
Mutate's still at hand, though. Ugh.
Yeah, I still don't really know about that one. Like, I get it. It was a kind of mass removable board anyway, and you didn't really want to throw the Mutate into it. But, like, on the flip side of that, if your opponent doesn't have the big removal, you kind of just win the game that turn with a good Mutate.
Yeah. You know, that can be pretty resourceful. Well, that's 10 damage from hand. Saiyan needs to heal and remove.
What's the admirable line? This next card needs to be James Franco because it has to do some nonsense like that. It has to do everything. You never heard this before? This is an admirable-ism. I'm sure of it.
No, this is a new one.
Okay.
He's a host now. He's evolving, man.
Okay.
I am no longer a certified Admirable Wrangler.
Yeah, fair enough.
I lost my certification months ago, and I've yet to retrain. All right, so this is lethal.
Uh-huh.
With Plague of Murlocs.
With Bluegill Warrior, yeah. No. I know, TJ. I didn't know if you wanted the call and response or whether I was just supposed to wait for the punchline for chat's benefit.
I hope you like my invention.
Great joke. Enjoyed by all. Well done.
All right, now we're seeing some mutates.
About a nice 3-drop this turn. Yeah, 3-drop.
3-drop and a 5-drop.
About a nice Wolf Rider from that 3-drop this turn. Oh, that could have been Raid Leader.
That's the right way.
Oh. All right, he's not doing it.
He's not playing mutate. And that should do it. Obviously, we can see the damage from hand for Zalae. Saiyan has no way to play around this.
Yeah. And I think this is honestly like a good representation of the matchup because I had a discussion with a couple of players on Twitter. Admirable's been a big advocate of playing it very damage heavy. I tried it out his way and actually came around to his way of thinking quite a lot. And I kind of tweeted about it, and then a few players kind of DM'd me and disagreed with me and said, no, I think you can just play it more value-based. But actually, I think the truth is like kind of somewhere in the middle, where with this, the right kind of balance of resources, you can be threatening lethal while outvaluing your opponent with Question. Like, that's just how good the matchup is, right, in a lot of spots. I think this execution from Zalae was pretty perfect. Like, maybe just a little bit greedy on the Evolve was the only thing that I can go back and take a look at, but yeah.
I feel like you can be greedy with the Evolves, right? Let's say you're board...
You can do pretty much anything you want in that matchup.
With, actually, he cut the Giggling Inventors. So... I don't know. I was thinking, like, you have this huge reload with Giggling Inventor plus the Mutate, but...
I'm making a 6-drop.
Overall, well played. And I think, like, Shaman even gets there, like, if the Warrior hand is even more competitive than that. Saiyan missed, you know, a lot of removal, but I think that even if his hand was, like, 3 magnitudes better, I still think that the Shaman's able to get there, which is how much value they have and just how deep they can go into the game and still find ways to generate resources and generate damage.
I think Zalae definitely smelled blood around the middle of the game there because, like you said, like if there's no weakness being shown from Saiyan, then Zalae can set himself out for a longer game. But I think Zalae was recognizing that Sam was in a couple of awkward spots and just saying, well, if I just Shadow Walk this turn, like this push of extra resources that I get, I don't have to wait for my barista and my life drinker and all these other
perfect
things
timing.
that can come out of the game. I can just play this right now, fills up my hand, makes 3 or 4 more boards, and one of those is probably going to get there.
And denies the Dr. Boom, which is the
that
the
timing
big one.
is massively important,
Yeah,
for sure.
you don't want to let them get that safe Dr. Boom. But it looks like we are joined by Zalae on the line for an interview after his win. Hey, Zalae, can you hear us?
You guys sound great. How you doing today?
Oh, thank you so much, Zalae. We really needed that. No, how are you feeling going into the week this week? You know, you came in 3-7. What was your mentality going into this week of matches?
I'm nervous. I really don't want to get relegated. Going into the whole GM thing, I like to think I'm definitely, in the top half of the GM field. Not the best. I'm no Hunter Ace, but I'm pretty good. But the reality is, I've been outperformed by the competition in general, and I've lost some brawls and stuff. But I'm getting nervous, right? Like my score is not where I wanted to be. I've been underperforming my own expectations. I had an off day or a day where my brain was just shut off, and I just kind of like missed some obvious wins. And so it's nice to get a win, and especially against this justsaiyan. He's such a strong competitor. He's got this incredible competitive mindset. Really talented guy, good work ethic. I have so much respect for him. So to beat justsaiyan in particular feels really good.
So, hi Zalae, first and foremost. Nice to talk to you, not through the medium of Twitch chat for once. This is lovely. But I am here, so I have to ask the hard-hitting questions, because that's what I do. Now, I watch your stream a ton, and I see you playing Zalae Hunter, best deck in the game, Highlander Paladin, all that kind of stuff. I don't see you jamming Priest matchups and Quest Shaman matchups and Quest Druid matchups. Is that something that you do off-stream? Like, how many hours can you possibly have in your day to make all that stuff happen?
No. It is not.
Can we connect that to this losing record? Can we put those two things together?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Life is full of tough decisions, and I love competing, and it's a huge opportunity to be in GM. It's one that I definitely feel like I've earned and worthy of, but it's also one where I've kind of disappointed some of my fans with a lack of performance. And I just want to say that as much as I love competing, priorities shift in life over time. People sometimes have this expectation that if you're in Grandmaster, it's your everything and you put 100 hours a week into it or something. And it's like, no, this isn't the NFL where you're getting paid $200K. The median Grandmaster makes $20K for it. This is a side job for me. I have a real job. This is a side job. And it's just not the most important thing I want to do with my time in my life right now. So I'm sorry to the fans that I've let down. I'm trying to put up a decent show. I really think I've been painted in a slightly more negative light than is entirely fair in some cases. I get a lot of things right. It's easy to point out some mistakes and think, I could do better than that. But the reality is I still pretty easily get top 10 legend memeing around on stream. So I'm not that bad. Grandmasters is tough. Grandmasters is really tough.
So did you ever consider kind of finding a middle ground of bringing those decks that you stream with and that your fans love to see, and was one of the reasons why they watch you, to Grandmasters?
Who knows? Maybe I'll bring Zalae Hunter next week.
All right, that's definitely the answer I wanted.
I mean, Zalae, I'm sure you stand by this. You said everyone that didn't bring Zalae Hunter this week is a stupid noob, yourself included. So, I mean, come
obvious.
on. Yeah.
It's the brain.
Yeah.
It beats everything.
Yeah.
I think we knew from the very beginning that the 16 America's Grandmasters players were all stupid noobs, and Zalae has just drove it home.
There's that negative attitude again, TJ.
Congratulations on the win, Zalae. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us, and good luck in your match later in the weekend.
Great answer, by the way.